Hey everybody, it's Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong. It is gorgeous here today. I have the doors open to the studio, my workshop, Paper Town as I call it, and I'm out in the yard right now. I wanted to just tell everyone hello and let you know that I am going to make a junk journal with trash and whatever I can find on hand. I know that's something that you've requested, so I'm going to do that video today. We are really going to make this journal with things that we have on hand. And I love cardboard, corrugated cardboard. I had a priority mailbox that ended up not being used, and it was just kind of, it had been tucked here and there and moved around until it was a little bit too shoddy to go in the mail. I am going to make a front cover and a back cover using these pieces, and I want them, so let's go ahead and start gluing while I'm talking. I want this to be really rough, might not be the right word. Let's have it be organic and what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of primitive, because we're using what we've got on hand. I'm going to stick those together, and we're going to put these two together because we want to hide the outside of that priority mailbox, give me a cardboard surface to work on, and we're going to have the back cover a little bit bigger than the front cover. It's going to be the same width, but the back cover is going to be a little bit taller. So while these things are drying, I want to pick out, okay, so you can see this little flap here that was glued onto the box. I'm leaving that, and I'm going to make that on the front because I don't want it to make the cover stand up on the inside. And one of the things I want to do is to start pulling away some of the outer layer here to show us some of that corrugation inside. Now you can make your cover out of whatever you want to. It can be old book covers, it needs to be sturdy enough to be a cover. Like, I wouldn't recommend just using a naked cereal box cover with nothing to support it. But you can, I mean, you can use whatever you want to. While these pieces were kind of bonding to each other, I went around and dropped some alcohol ink on the white part that was showing, and we're gonna add even more than this. I want this to be a really fun, eclectic journal full of things that we can find. So I'm gonna have to buy more alcohol ink soon. So we have the front, we have the back, and now I want to decide what kind of fabric I'm gonna use to put this together. So let's look through the fabric scraps. I think I've picked out a couple of pieces. I just went through some of my grungy fabrics and I don't know, just kind of grabbed what jumped out at me, which is this old money bag that I never finished using, and some of the fabric with the roses on it. Let's have this rosy fabric be on the outside, and I'm just gonna cut, actually we might rip a piece. So I'm gonna make this about, let's make the spine about this wide. What is that, like 2.5 or 3 inches? And I want to leave enough to glue over a bit of the front or to sew over a bit of the front, and that much of a spine. So let's tear, those probably won't cut through the fabric. Let's tear right here. And let's, I don't want this where it's the pinking shears were used. I just want more of a torn finish. So I'm going to tear that edge off, and I'm going to tear it about right here. Okay, so that gives us a block of fabric to hook the front and the back of the books together. And I am going to go ahead and let me think about this for a second. First of all, that might be upside down. Let's turn it this way. I want to be able to possibly stitch through here, and I want all my glue to dry first. We're going to have a chance to work on signatures here in just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down so it can start drying. I use tacky glue for so many things. So let's do this. Let's put some here and some right here, and then kind of spread that around. Is that the way that goes? Hopefully. Let's put that there. And I'm going to try to get this even if we can. I mean, I think tacky glue dries pretty quickly, or at least it grabs pretty quickly. And they even make the fast grab, which I love. I love the fast grab. The next thing I'm gonna do is cut a piece of fabric for the inside. Now this probably needs to be pressed a little bit, and I don't feel like messing with it. And I don't know if this will tear either. Yeah, it sure does. So I might have to just make myself get my iron out, because I know it would make a big difference in this piece of fabric. And let's tear right here. Or I could just be lazy. It might not tear as easy this way. Let's pull a little bit more. Yeah. Got to get it started. So I'm getting a piece of fabric pretty much the same size, and we're going to glue that on the inside. And that's going to be our spine. There are bugs coming in here. Little flying bugs. There's so many of them out today. It's so warm here today, and they think it's springtime. Spring is in the air today. Really, really, really. All right, so let's do that. And there is our spine, but it's going to be, once we get the signatures in, it's going to start standing up a little more. While we are letting this dry, I'm going to cut some strips of fabric. And we could continue to use this up, and it's already the same height. And I want the strips to be about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches, because this book's not that big. And now let's get some paper. I brought some watercolor paper out here because that's what I want to use. I love using that for journals, or is this mixed media watercolor? So it's heavy. I love to use watercolors. I love to glue. I love to do mixed media. And I feel like watercolor paper really does a good job with all of that. And we are going to be sewing these pieces of paper to fabric strips. And we might not, I'm thinking here. So once we get the fabric strips on, they're going to stand out a little bit more. And I'm wondering if I want to just let that happen. Like if I want to let them stick out of the book a little bit and then tear them or cut them. You know, for the sake of seeing what happens, I'm going to leave them just the size they are and show you how I do this. So I'm going to take, the way I'm going to do it, the way I always do it, is to take a fabric strip. Now this one's not so neat, but it's not going to matter. Let me take a flat one just to show you. I'm going to take this paper and the strip over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew these two pieces of paper to this strip so that it's going to be like this. Okay, here, see, you can see where I sewed. And let me tell you something that I always pay attention to. It may not look even when you look at the fabric, but I want to try to keep these pages as symmetrical and as parallel to each other, evenly parallel as I possibly can. I tried to get them really close together so that they don't stick out of the book that much. Now you can widen that gap some. I'm going to come back and put a piece of fabric on this side and sew it into place. So there's a fabric strip on each side. I didn't really cut the strings, but we can cut those, or you can leave them hanging. Sometimes I really like, especially if I'm doing something junky, just to let a lot of them hang out. But that's our first signature. And we are going to sew it into our spine using the sewing machine. And I will show you that really soon. Let's go ahead and make some more signatures. This could end up looking backwards, I'm not sure, but I want you to see the sewing machine. As I'm using it, I decided to cut some fabric strips with the rosy fabric. And while we're sitting here, I'm just going to cut another one. And I'm doing that probably 1.5 inches or 2 inches. And let's go ahead and, I don't want that white end on there, the selvage or whatever it is. And we want it to be about the same length as the page. I've already sewed that side into place, so I'm just putting it up under the needle, laying that fabric on top. I've got this stitch set up to like 5.0, so it's kind of a long stitch. You can get sloppy with your stitches, you can zigzag, you can change your stitches. Like you could use a decorative stitch. Sometimes I go around in one continuous stitch. Sometimes I stop and break the thread and start again on the other side so that there's nothing across the fabric there. So that's another signature. And I already have this many. So we're going to do a few more. And I'm going to tear some more fabric strips. I love that rosy fabric. We might even switch up some of the paper that we're putting in. The journal is sitting here open. You can see where we glued the fabric in the center. Oh, isn't the light beautiful? I've got the doors open. And you can kind of see in there where that spine, where the front and the back stop and start. So that's how much space we have in there. So I'm thinking, and you're not going to be able to sew them super close together. You can get them pretty close together. Well, you can. I mean, it just takes some practice. But I think I'm going to be able to use about 5 more signatures. So I might start switching up the pages a little bit, maybe even put some more cardboard in here. So just let me make some pages, some signatures, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm so excited about this. Let me show you what I've done. The cover has had time to be drying while I've made some signatures. I showed you how to make the signatures. So I just kind of grabbed some things from the workshop out here. You know that I was using watercolor paper, and the size of this paper is 6 by 9 inches. I cut the other things that I used to pretty much the same size. I had some old calendar pages. I love these old world illustrations. I've been wanting to practice more on how I paint and draw faces, so I love having faces in my journals. And I went ahead and made quite a few signatures. Enough, I think, to fill it up. There's another beautiful old world image. I sewed that onto a piece of black paper that was like a divider. I used just some random fabric strips. That was from some fabric that looked like wood. We have some more of the rosy fabric. There's a piece of corrugated cardboard with another beautiful old world image. And this one, I'm always trying things just to see how they turn out. This one has got quilting, a piece of old quilt as the center of the signature. So it's wanting to just flip open. That fabric's so thick. So let's look at how we want the signatures to be. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that have just the white strips or the off-white strips. I've got 2 with the roses that are showing, 2 with the kind of wood fabric, and then I wonder, let's put the quilted one in the middle. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's good. So I'm gonna do, what do I want in the front of the book? I think I want this in the front. So that's gonna give us just some white paper there. And oh, that's pretty. That's another fabric strip. That fabric was gifted to me, and I'm just loving using that. There's more of that. I think I'll move it to a different part. Let's go with just another section of white paper, and then that. But that, I need to pull one from over here. Let's put that there and here. Now, why did I move that? I guess I didn't want too much. That's going to be okay. I like that there. And we have this, and then that, and that, and that. So I'm going to start sewing these in, and I'm going to start right in the center. And there is a reason for that. So let's put these on this side and these over here, and get right in the center of the book, the spine, I mean, and lay this down flat. And I'm gonna move the camera so that hopefully once again you can see the sewing machine. Yeah, I got you a little bit closer here. Move myself around a little bit. So I think you can see, okay, here's the book. I'm gonna put this right in the center. And one thing I do want to tell you, I told you I didn't leave much of a gap between the papers. You want to sew only on fabric. You don't want to get into the paper because that is not going to let it fold like it needs to. So let's get this thing turned the right way. Make sure I've got the outside on the outside. And I'm going to put this signature right in the center. And this is the part that can get really tricky because you're going to have to cram this stuff up under the sewing machine. And you know what? Okay, we might already be changing our minds about this because the wheels are turning, people. We will not be defeated. See, in the past, I haven't had to cover this hard. I sewed the signatures to fabric and then glued it in. So we're going to stop what we're doing and do that. Never be defeated. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me get my heavy fabric again. And let's get a square piece that's the same size as this. And yes, unfortunately, we're going to be covering up that lovely wording, but that's okay. That's all right. We might not even do the whole size because I don't want to trick myself into thinking I have more room for signatures than I actually do. So let's just cut this by never give up. So this is where the signatures are going to be sewn. And I'm going to start right in the center and sew this one into place. A straight line. We got to keep it in the road. So that's the first one. And see, we're going to end up gluing this into the book, so do not fear. The next signature, I'm going to go keep sewing the ones on the right. I'm going to lay this next to the first one as close as I can, and I'm going to sew it to the fabric strip. And I want the pages to line up across the top. That's one of the main things here. And we're just gonna make sure that we're not sewing paper. Oops, now I know why it won't move. There's a piece of thread caught on my presser foot. But that's okay. There we go. I knew something was wrong. I'm not sure if you can see how I'm having to, I was having to really work with that and force it into the place I wanted it to be. So now let's go with the next signature. We're going to lay it right by the first one and try to keep those papers lined up. Make sure I'm sewing on the fabric. I don't want my sleeve in the way. We went right down the center. I sewed it in the wrong place. Did I really just do that? I sewed a signature inside a signature. Wait. Did I really? Yeah, I don't want that, so I'm going to tear it out. See, I'm showing y'all all the mistakes and everything. Just don't give up. I can't believe I did that. I've never done that before. Here we go. Now we're going to lay it right next to that one. I'm focusing on showing you all plus doing this at the same time. So let's lay that next to the first one. And now we're going to sew right through the center. Yeah, and that's leaving us the room that we need. So I'm going to sew another one. My poor sewing machine. It has to be really strong. It has to be really strong to keep up with Paper Town. So one of the main things you want to do is make sure the papers stay lined up. And this is not an exact science. Like, this is not measured. This is not going to be precise. You're going to have, and see, it can get hard to start pushing the paper underneath as it gets bigger. Thicker. So I am now, we're all the way to the back. I'm going to turn and work from the other direction. So we want to make sure that we're turning these signatures the right way. So this one's going to go next to that one in the center. Looks like I'm getting my papers off a little bit, but I'm doing this really fast. Really fast. You can see how quick this is going. So when it slows down, it's because this little part of the presser foot is catching on the fabric. You just have to figure out, oh, I think I was sewing on paper a little bit. Let's back up. Let's see. Yeah, that's not too bad though. And then let's do this one and make sure that it is the right way because it's got an image on it, and it is. Now, if you remember the journal Poetic Rust, that is why it ended up being safety pinned. And look, I got to push the fabric under that part of the presser foot back there. It ended up, you know, I was thinking about an open spine, and I was just looking around the studio and saw those safety pins and said, I could use that for a test run, and then they were so cool, I ended up leaving them in place. But you can see why I would have wanted something to hold things in place. And I think this is going to be okay. It looks like we've given ourselves just enough room. Wow, this one might be tricky because it's on the very, very edge. Let's pull this up and make sure. All right. I'll move the camera, guys. Okay, even though we're gonna lose this writing, sometimes that happens. All of our signatures are sewn to this. It's a bit messy. It's not perfect. It's not perfectly even. I worked really fast through this, not this. And let's find, okay, this way. So we are just going to put some glue down, our handy dandy tacky glue. Sorry fabric. At least I know you're under there, you know. We're gonna put it all in between these two, the front and the back. And we're even going a little bit over because the fabric went over a little bit. Oh man. The other day in the store, there was a customer, a very, very elderly man. He was in a wheelchair, but mentally he was very spry, and he was a little bit hard of hearing, but he knew everything he was talking about. And he was looking for a product called Heat and Bond. Did I put this the right way? Let me make sure. Yeah. And just, you know, the way he was talking, I just kind of got a sense that we were kindred spirits in the things that we like to make. And he was talking about what he wanted to do with it, and then he said, you know, it'll bind paper perfectly to the inside of a book cover. And I said, do you make books? And his eyes lit up. He said, I've been making books for like 40 or 50 years. I don't remember how long it was. And I said, I make books too. And I bet his were probably amazing. His probably were more precise. And I mean, I just have a feeling that he makes books. Oh, look how all of that's sticking out. Isn't that glorious? And we hit it off. I found the product that he was looking for, and you know, he rolled around the store and I walked with him, and it was just so nice to be able to be a part of that conversation and to have something in common with him like that. It's really, really nice. So here's our book. This is our junk journal, and so here's the reason I ended up having to sew the signatures onto fabric and then glue them. I forgot that a lot of times when I make books like this, I'm using a file folder cover that has been covered in fabric, and it will bend. It'll curl up under the sewing machine. I didn't want to bend this corrugated cardboard. I want it to be intact. I mean, that's the reason I put two pieces together and glued it. I want it to be really sturdy. But that is the way I do my two page signatures and then sew them in. And we have, you know, this is not perfect. It is not perfect. While the glue is still drying, we can pull these pages a little bit if you feel like, and that one was a little bit off. It was too far away from the back cover. So let's go ahead and add some more glue. And I think we're actually going to see a little bit of that S under there, which is really kind of neat. So I think that's probably close enough there. And then in the front, I just moved that one away from the spine a little bit. Or not the spine, the front cover. And move it closer near the bottom. I'm just trying to make it kind of even at this point. So that is our junk journal. And why don't we do some things to it while we're here? I know I want something really pretty on the front. Let's tear away some more of that paper. Maybe we will do a little painting. Where's my watercolor paper? The desk is a mess. I've been keeping things so clean, and now, well, it's not bad. I just want to get it, I want to keep it clean, and you know. Let me find my Sharpie. Here's one. And let's make a little face. And how about if we make a pretty little collar and some puffy sleeves and eyebrows and the shapes of the eyes. This ink is not going to run. And let's do a cute little nose. And then a little bit of a mouth here. Maybe a little line there. Let's do another line above the eyes. Maybe a little line below the eyes. And some cute ears. And then let's make some hair. And now this is that whole thing. We don't want it to be too big. I might have made it too big, but we're going to cut it down a little bit. So let's make some faces. Where is my hello. This, our Tombow dual brush pens, the portrait palette. So maybe, what color is that? Let's use some darker color here and there. And then is this, what color is that? Maybe put that pretty pink right in here. A little bit up there, and maybe a little bit on the nose. Is this? We might add some more red there. And then what is this? There's got to be What is this one? That's white. Let's take some water and blend that a little bit. It should blend. I probably should have wet the paper first. That's all right, because we're going to come back. And where's my Sharpie? And let's put some pockets and a few buttons and put that on there, and maybe some lace. And why don't we, well, this Sharpie is almost out. Now let's open, now that we have some basic color there, let me put these away, and let's pull out, let's open this, get a little brush. What color should I make her dress? What color is that? I think that's darker than what I want. So, and we might cut that down anyway. Let's go with a, what color is that? And maybe for the hair, let's get into this one, because we've got the black and brown. And I want to get a, let's pull out a neo color. A little bit more color in here. And for her hair, that's not dark enough. That might be too red. This is one of my favorite colors. That's the Bordeaux. I'm always coming back to that color. And maybe just kind of do the buttons and the pockets. And this is messy, but that's okay. For the eyes, I know we got the black circles there. I don't know if we can add some color. Yep, on top. And just and you know what? I should have kept out the, we didn't really put any color on her arms. And this, it's okay with me if this runs like it's doing. And I don't really want black in her face, but I think you know what I mean. So we're just using all sorts of colors. I'm gonna keep my towel close by to be able to actually come back with the roller ball and get some more dark lines. And let's what else do I want to do? What am I thinking? I was just thinking about something. Oh, I know. What? Let's put out a blob of, that's too big of a blob, but it's already there now. Get a tiny little paintbrush. I think I've got one here somewhere. And let's do a little white paint. Maybe add okay, she might be a little bit crazy, but that's okay. We're doing this, we're going through really fast for the sake of this video. I don't want you to run on her face. Just because I'm in a hurry, let's just soak that water up. Let's cut right under the pockets to start with. Ooh, we like her. And I see that white paint sitting there. We need to use that. I think I'm gonna glue her down to start with, and I am gonna round the corners. Perfect idea. She looks a little bit shell-shocked. She almost looks like she's offended. And we're not totally done with her yet. Again, I just am trying to get this done for the sake of the video. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and put some good glue on the back here. And let's make sure that, so it is going to be coming up onto that ridge, but that's okay. We're just going to go with that. See what I mean? I'm not worrying about that. Let's get that into place. I love that you can still see this. Once this glue is dry, I might come back and sew at each corner of that cover. So she's just really junky right now. You know what else we could do? We could, which is an idea I really like. Let's get let's get 4 brads out. And I'm gonna get my, I'm gonna get the awl just because I know I can't punch through all of this. So let's put this through here and turn that over like that. And go ahead and do another one. Red. There we go. So let's turn that back like that, and oops, that can go there. So I'm gonna angle it, or try to angle it so that these pieces here are on a diagonal like that. So we can probably glue something over that. And we are gonna end up putting so much into this journal. This is definitely gonna be a junk journal. I'm gonna use scraps from the shop. We're gonna have some hand drawn things and lots of words and bits of nature and bits of trash and recycling. So I used things that were already in the shop. The only thing that is like technically purchased, which I already had in the shop, is the watercolor paper. So let's keep pressing this down. And look, I have some wire right here. We might sew that matted up wire to the front. So see, I just went back and forth on that mass of wire. So it's just kind of sitting there. I might put one more, I might go back and forth in one more spot. So here she is. Pretty little girl on the front. She looks a little offended, so I know what we're gonna have to put on the front. Oops, sorry. Let's do this. J, but what color do we want? And we might actually want, maybe not masking tape for the front. I might be able just to stamp right over her, the paint there. And I'm gonna use black. So let's say J, U, I'm pressing too hard, that's okay. N, K, and then a question mark, like junk. Junk. Now to get rid of those lines that I didn't really want there, sometimes I will come back with a tiny little wet paintbrush and try to tone those down a little bit. And then we might actually junk. We might actually take a pen. Let's do the Sharpie. And darken up the letters in some spots. Yes, junk journal. Oh, I just don't want to be done with this right now. I want to just keep playing. That was some leftover white paint. You saw that right here. So look at that. See how it turns? Everything is sewn in. You can start clipping things to the fabric pieces. And see, that's going to be that really thick quilt strip in the center. But I love this. And you can see that's where I tore the one out, the little thread sticking out there. And here we are at the back. So there is so much more yet to do. As I continue to clean out here, we might put little samples of things that I'm getting rid of, or just whatever. So I'm sitting here with my book out in this beautiful, beautiful weather. We've got so much more to add to this. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here. Bye for now.